So with that, I'll call the meeting to order. It's good to see all your guys' faces. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. And we have a packed full agenda. So we'll get right into it. Let's take a look at the meeting minutes from September. Do I have any comments on those meeting minutes from anyone? Okay, I just have two very small comments. Just in the section on the voters forum, the update that I gave, it says 8 to 9, it should say 7 to 9, and the word form in the second to last sentence should say from. The form is soliciting questions from the DAB for the candidates. But otherwise, looks good to me as well. So if there are no other changes, I'll ask for a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
Move.
Thanks, Oswaldo. So we have a motion. Do I have a second? Manijeh seconds. All right. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Excellent. Minutes are approved. All right. Let's move into our public comment section. Anybody from the public want to say anything? Have any questions?
Yeah, it looks like Jena.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Jena Hughes, long range planner at the City of Beaverton. I was here a few months ago to talk about the Cooper Mountain Community Plan. And you may have remembered I had said that we're working with Unite Oregon to recruit for an inclusive housing cohort, which we're now recruiting for. And the group will be learning about various housing issues in Beaverton, including projects such as the Cooper Mountain Community Plan, the Housing Options Project, which aims to look at adding more housing variety in single-family neighborhoods, and the Affordable Housing Program. So recruitment is live and applications are due the 15th. I'm going to paste in the chat the link to the Google application form in case you or if anyone you know might be interested. And yeah, I think that's about it. I'll also post my email in case anyone has any follow-up questions. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Jena. And then we, let me turn her on. We also have Kathy French.
Yes, hello. I have a follow-up question from your last meeting. And the new police station is open now. Was there indeed a sort of a town hall meeting with the community who might be frightened of police officers in their midst?
Are you asking if we've done that in the new building or?
Yeah, the suggestion was that it's in a neighborhood that has many people who would be more uneasy seeing a lot of police come and go in their neighborhoods. And so the suggestion had been that there be a meeting, a neighborhood meeting with police there to have a conversation to reassure people. And I'm wondering how that went.
Do you want to respond to that? Oh, go ahead.
I'll let Paul.
Yeah, Alexis, hopefully you can hear me. Can everybody hear me? Good. I had to download Zoom for my computer, so I'm finally on board. Okay, so I came in kind of midstream in the question, but I think I got all of it. So what we've done in the past few weeks, we moved in the new building, survived the move, and then since we're in a COVID-19 environment, we couldn't have like a group meeting or a community meeting just due to COVID. So what Lieutenant Stellingwerf's done, along with Community Service Division and the chief, is they went out about a couple weeks ago and started kind of walking the neighborhood, especially the businesses, primarily the businesses and the apartment complexes. Touch base with, I think, I don't have the numbers, but quite a few of them. Kind of introduced ourselves, said if they had any concerns with the police department, and I'll let Neil kind of chime in here. He went out, but I think the response was overwhelmingly positive. I think they're glad to have us in the neighborhood, and they're glad that we actually came out and went door to door and kind of made that introduction. So hopefully, once COVID goes away, we can have group meetings, but in the interim, we'll keep those relationships going. And then maybe as we get in this cold and flu season, if it's not too bad, we could start doing some very small tours of the building with kind of the neighbors, especially the business owners. Neil, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, not too much. That's correct. We canvassed the neighborhood and spoke to folks in and around the neighborhood. The only other thing I would add is it's also, it's been talked about at NAC meetings. That's another forum that we have to get information out to people. So if you participate in your local neighborhood NAC, I think in this particular case, I'd have to double check, but I believe that's Central Beaverton still. But yeah, we've talked to neighbors.
Thank you. That sounded important to do.
Great. Well, that's what we've got, Rachel. So for questions.
Wonderful. Then it looks like we have cultural sharing next. Ugonna has the floor.
Thank you for having me. My name is Ugonna, and I just want to share a little bit, some basic information about Nigeria. I come from Nigeria, been in the United States for the past 12 years or more. I just want to share just a little bit about Nigeria. I don't have any screen to share with you guys. I'm so sorry. Please bear with me.
Ugonna,
So,
would you mind speaking up just a little bit? For me, you are a little bit faint.
Nigeria is one of the largest in Africa. Is one of the countries from West Africa, and Nigeria has, yes. Oh, okay. Let me see if I can increase my volume. Can you hear me now? Is it better? I'm sorry if it's better. Is it better? Can you hear me now?
You're a little bit louder, but your audio is breaking up. I wonder if you try without video.
Can you hear me? I'm increasing my volume. This is it better? Is it better?
That sounds better.
What?
It sounds a little better now.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can everybody hear me? Oh, okay, awesome. So I was saying that Nigeria is located. Ooh, great. So I was saying that Nigeria is on the west part of Africa, and we have 3 major tribes in Nigeria. And the first tribe is the Hausa tribe. The Hausa tribe is located on the northern part of Nigeria. And then we have the Yoruba tribe of Nigeria. And then we have the Igbo tribe. And I happen to be from the Igbo tribe. And we are located on the southern eastern part of Nigeria. But then again, we also have other smaller tribes scattered all over Nigeria, but the most predominant ones are the ones that I just listed. And then Nigeria has a ton of languages. But yet again, the most popular languages that we have are the Hausa language, the Igbo language, and the Yoruba language. Now, when you come to the Igbo language, we have up to 1,000 dialects. So I can meet somebody from the Igbo tribe, but our dialects are different. You know, so the one language that unites us is the English language. But then we also have the broken English language, which is like, it's spoken like the French Creole. So those are the two languages that unite Nigeria. Other than that, we have 1,000,001 different languages that we speak. So the next fun fact about Nigeria is we became a political state in 1999. So for the past 3 years prior to that, we were under military rulership. But now we are under a democratic leadership, which is awesome. The capital state of Nigeria is Abuja, and that is where we have our White House. The White House is called the Aso Rock. And the reason being that the city where the White House is located is a city of rocks. So we call the White House Aso Rock. And then the largest city in Nigeria is Lagos. Actually, Lagos is the largest city in Africa. It has a population of up to 20 million people, and it's growing every day. I mean, if you have not experienced Lagos traffic, you've never experienced traffic. What you see here, what you call traffic here, is just a little bump, a little speed bump compared to Lagos traffic. It's crazy out there. Lagos is also where we have our movie industry. If you've heard about Nollywood industry, that is in Lagos. That is where, if you want to make it big, it's like the Big Apple of Nigeria, like the New York of Nigeria. So if you want to be a movie star, you really have to move to Lagos. If you want to have a music career, you have to move to Lagos. Also, we have major businesses there. So needless to say, it is the biggest city that we have in Nigeria and in Africa. Then the type of music that we have the Afrobeat, we have the Juju style, and the godfather of Juju style. When you talk about musicians in Nigeria, you talk about a man called Fela Kuti. Fela Kuti was a popular musician way back in the 90s in Nigeria. He had international prominence as well. So he was one of the most popular artists that we had in Nigeria. And then when you talk about laureates, we have a man called Wale Soyinka. He won the Nobel he won the Nobel Prize in 1986. So he is one of Nigeria's most popular authors, most popular writers of Nigeria. You talk about Wale Soyinka and Chinua Achebe. Now let's talk about the food in Nigeria. I don't know if you've ever attended any event hosted by a Nigerian here. The number one food that we have is what we call the jollof rice. If you have not tasted the Nigerian jollof rice, you have not really tasted Nigerian cuisine, because that is the number one cuisine that we have, the jollof rice. And it's basically made of rice in a tomato sauce, but there's a lot of spice in it. You know, there's a saying that no one jollof rice is the same. Everybody's jollof rice can never be the same. Even if we put the same ingredients, the same recipe, it always tastes differently, you know. So there is an ongoing debate, which country has the best jollof rice, whether it's Nigeria or Ghana. We are competing with each other when it comes to jollof rice. And then we have another delicacy that we call the moi moi. Moi moi is beans paste, like baked. I mean, if you attend any event in Nigeria, these are the two things that you'll be sure to eat: the jollof rice and the moi moi, which is a bean cake. And then we have the fufu and the soup. So let's talk a little bit about infrastructure. Nigeria has issues with energy. You know, we get to enjoy 24-hour power here, but in Nigeria, it's still a challenge. It's still a struggle to get to that point where we can have 24-hour power. So most people end up providing their own power by themselves. So we use different kinds of machinery to provide our own power. We have the generators, the inverters, and the gas lamp. So it is still being, Nigeria is still being developed. We have not gotten to that point where the government can produce, can provide the citizens with the much needed power. So the citizens have to provide power by themselves. So this is, in a nutshell, basic facts that I can share about Nigeria. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
I was going to ask a question. So in Nigeria, is there like a primary industry?
Well, the primary industry, that's an interesting question. There is no particular primary industry. Everybody strives to do good, but then when you talk about career-wise, we have the medical field. Everybody wants to be a medical doctor in Nigeria. So that is the most prominent career in Nigeria. But when it comes to most predominant industry, like everywhere else, everybody wants to be a star, you know? So there's no particular one predominant industry in Nigeria. Any more questions? I yield the floor. Yes,
I have
Manijeh.
a question. I couldn't. Thank you for your beautiful presentation. These days I hear that Nigeria is on the news about something that I haven't got a chance to look into it. But do you know? Do you know what's going on in Nigeria right now? Something's going on.
Well, the youths are saying they don't want. There's a particular police department that has been problematic. They are more likely happy police officers who are not interested in investigating issues before, you know, and a lot of citizens have lost their lives at the hands of this particular set of police officers. So they are protesting at the moment that we have to dissolve this this group of police officers. It's called, I believe it's called the SARS. I don't have the full meaning of that word, but the citizens are demanding that the government defund that particular arm of the police department. So that's what's currently going on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Manijeh. Any more questions? Yes, Rehana.
Thanks for the presentation, Ugonna. It's really, really informative. I have a quick question about you said that the traffic in Lagos is very bad, because it reminds me a bit like the traffic in Pakistan. So a certain traffic pattern, or is it just free for all? Just go when you want to go, no traffic lights? Is there some sort of traffic pattern, or just people just as they want?
That's a very good question. Listen, we have traffic lights, right? People just move. Nobody cares about traffic lights. Nobody cares about that. They just keep going. But we have more organized cities like Abuja, which is the capital. In Abuja, people are more are more respectful of the law, right? In other cities, everybody's just moving. You just gotta keep moving. Whether or not the light is red or green, nobody cares about that. So I think that contributes to the chaos on the roads. And then the honking is never ending. I mean, when you're driving on the road, everybody's honking at you, right? Unlike here, where you hardly hear people honk, right? People are pretty respectful of, fellow road users. Back there is a jungle out there. They're gonna honk your ears off if you don't move when the light is red. It's crazy. The light is red, you just have to keep moving. So it's interesting. Yes.
Same,
All right,
same
thank
thing.
you
Same.
very much for having me. Thank you, Manijeh.
You're welcome. Thank you. Back in Iran is the same thing. I always say whoever can drive in Iran is the best driver in the world. And if you watch someone crossing the road, crossing the street, when I watch that, I just panic. I cannot breathe when I see to make sure that person crosses the street safely. It's so horrible.
I can't drive back home. I can't do it.
Thank you so much, Ugonna. We are going to move on to liaison reports. And for those who are providing liaison reports, I'm just going to ask that you keep it fairly brief today so that we can get onto our DEI progress ratings. So let's start with Councilor Arnold, please.
Sure. Briefly, coming up, we're working with the new charter. We're looking at changing the mayor's salary this week. We are doing work where we've had people applying for the interim position. We'll have, as the minutes talked about, we have a city manager. We'll have an interim city manager for probably the first 6 months of next year. So we're looking, we've been taking applications. We'll be interviewing that person, those people for that position, I think on November 12th. So when we have our new councilors identified and new mayor, we'll be doing that. That's the biggest news. And of course, we continue to keep extending the COVID emergency declaration.
Does anybody have any questions for Councilor Arnold?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to hearing more on those things. I don't think Karenna's here today.
She is not, but she did send me a brief message to share with you all. She just she couldn't come because of a family commitment. But she said that my general MYAB updates are that our subcommittees plans are that our subcommittees that are planning are currently advocacy, diversity and equity, community involvement, and youth homelessness. And we're working on sorting members into subcommittees, and then we'll begin planning for projects for the year. That was her update.
Thanks, Alexis. How about our folks from the Beaverton Police Department?
Well, thanks for having Neil Stellingwerf and I again tonight. So now that we both have Zoom and it's working, I guess we can properly introduce ourselves quickly because I know you got a busy schedule. So Neil and I will kind of be your police department liaisons for the next, let's say, year and a half before probably I retire, but we got plenty of time together. So Neil and I will always be a resource for you and vice versa. And Neil and I are supposed to kind of take over tonight. Last month, we filled in for Captain Smith kind of quickly. So I apologize for the kind of rough introduction there, but Captain Smith's still doing well. He's still doing the patrol division and busy with them. And I think that's about it. So it's nice to have finally Zoom working. So I'll be able to participate in a proper manner from now on. Any questions for me or Neil? And I will just say quickly, I forgot this. Neil and I actually worked together in Community Services Division. We're getting a little older now. I'd say 8 or 9 years ago. I'd have to do the math. So it's kind of like we've come full circle a little bit. So it's nice to be back in Community Services.
It's 10, but nobody's counting.
10 years. See, it's adding up quickly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I don't have anything to add unless anybody has any questions. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we are cruising. Teresa, do you have an HTAG update for us?
Yes, so we had a project update on housing options by a planning division. The purpose of this was to consider where and how additional housing types could be allowed in the city's residential neighborhoods. So all 11 neighborhoods, we had a brief history lesson on the different neighborhood patterns, and they have finally added racial equity to their housing options project, which I am very, very happy at. So silence, like sign language clap to that. Why they didn't start with that, I don't know, but you know, the squeakiest wheel gets the grease. So very happy with that update in that. And I apologize for not having that PowerPoint available for tonight so you can view it, but I will be sure to give it to Alexis so that she can have it distributed sometime this month. And if you want to chit chat about some of the neighborhood patterns or history on racial equity in Beaverton, you can ask questions or I can provide some of that information later. And that is my HTAG liaison report.
Thanks, Teresa.
Questions?
Yeah, any questions? Okay. We'll continue moving along. Thank you again, Teresa. We're going to jump into our DEI Plan progress ratings. I'll have Alexis kind of intro this process a bit. And hopefully everyone received Alexis's email earlier today with some updates to the original draft that she sent last week for the DEI Plan implementation report. Most of the changes were in the economic empowerment section, so we may spend a little bit more time on that in this session right now. But anyway, Alexis, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, I definitely first and foremost offer my apologies for sending out a doc that had some errors in it in that reference information. Paying a lot of attention to that right-hand column and what was new and not so much to what we thought had gotten transferred over correctly. So I apologize for that. And yes, we will do what we need to do as a group to make up for that if there are shifts that we need to make. But yeah, so I guess I'll just say there's now kind of a small number of people on the board who've ever done this before. But I'll just say that, you know, the DAB has always played a role of monitoring and accountability for the DEI plan, in addition to being the primary authors of it. And so annually, minus last year when we were designing the new plan, the board has for years in a row gone through this process of taking a look at a staff report towards the end of the year and discussing and figuring out which progress rating to give it among those ratings that were designed with you all as well. And really the purpose is just to give us kind of a temperature check on how are we doing as a city, and how are we both communicating the information, and how are we progressing on the goals that you all helped set for us. And so it's your observations about what we're communicating and how we're communicating it are definitely important, and also your observations around, well, it looks like this is getting a lot of traction and movement and this isn't getting any. And all of those pieces, I think, help us prioritize and help shine a light on things that need more work, and also celebrate some great things that have happened. So we thank you in advance for doing this exercise. This time it's a little bit different because as you all really pushed for and I think succeeded in many ways in making the plan more specific and asking for reporting that was more specific on each indicator that was in there. I hope that that came across also as a clearer report, or one that is easier to sort of track what progress is happening on those specific ideas that you all put in there. So yeah, so just, you know, overall this DEI plan that we're currently looking at was approved a year ago this month. The report that you got is a roll-up of staff reports from all of the different departments across. So the 8 departments at the city submitted to me their reports, and I edited and compiled and placed those, you know, as to the best of our ability where they go corresponding. I did go back several times with different staff and ask for more or different information. Sometimes to press for more quantitative information when that was possible. Sometimes I got that, sometimes I didn't. This year is also meant sort of as a baseline in some of those areas. So you'll see some things have comparative data that was available for past years and some don't, because this is the first year that we're as staff being asked to report it. So you may not have comparison data to see whether something increased or decreased until next year. So that's just to let you know that. The feedback on the process is really welcome as well, and I appreciate those of you who've reached out and said, you know, this didn't really work for me so well, or I think it would have been better if we did this. So I'm hoping that at the end of the actual progress ratings that we can talk a little bit more about that. And in case there isn't time, I've also added just a quick, like, 3-question survey that will pop up at the end of this webinar for you all to provide some feedback if there isn't time for that. So our goal to get to today, we're going to go through each of the 6 priority sections, and we're going to try to assign one of the priority ratings to each of the 6 sections. Again, I'm interested in your more detailed feedback, but our collective goal is to assign one of those ratings. And so what we're going to try to do is go through each one of those, sort of assign a provisional rating to that, and then we're going to, when we get all through all 6, we will take an official vote at the end. To sort of consent to all of those if the board is ready to do that. So does that make sense? Is that, hopefully that's helpful background information. Let me know if you have questions. But what we're going to do is kind of just start with the folks who are assigned to one area, invite you all to comment about some of your observations, strengths and weaknesses, and what you would suggest as a rating for the board. Kind of get some comments, spend about, hopefully maybe about 10 minutes on each section. At the end of that time, I have the polling feature in Zoom set up to go ahead and take a poll of everybody of what you would rate that section, and then we'll move through, and if there's a ton of discrepancy in how we would rate, then we can come back and talk more. Go ahead, Rehana.
Alexis, I have one question. So with regards to the rating, are we rating the whole section or the subsections?
Yeah, so we're rating the whole, like the first section is public engagement. So there are several goals within that. We're rating the whole public engagement section, priority area as a whole. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Right, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals under public engagement, but we're looking at that as a comprehensive whole. Other questions before we get started? Certainly welcome along the way as well. Okay, well, so for public engagement, we had Dahlia, Rehana, Anusha, Manijeh, and Teresa assigned to that one. So those of you who are here, would you like to go ahead and if you could share a few comments about what stood out to you and which rating you would recommend to the board, and then we'll take any questions or additional comments. Go ahead, Rehana.
I can start the section. So I gave that section overall rating of moderate progress, only because the section which is leadership development, PE4, we don't seem to have met some of those goals. I guess because of COVID as well, you know, we were hindered a little bit, but I feel that, you know, that whole section, I think we didn't. Is it just me or is it? Sorry, I'm looking at 3 different things. I feel that most of those in PE4 were in development rather than, you know, developing. So that's why I gave that a moderate progress, because everything else seemed fine, but it was just that PE4 leadership development section. And then the thing that stood out to me was the, what stood out to me was the PE5, the PE5-2, which is the reflective government section. We had 38% of board applicants were people of color. So I don't know what it was previously in previous years, but that seems good in the circumstances we're in. That's what stood out to me. And then what was lacking, I felt, was in P4, the race ethnicity was not collected for the Beaverton elected officials. We did collect, you know, gender, but we didn't, for some reason, data was not collected for the city of Beaverton elected officials. I think we can maybe do a better job of that. And that's what stood out. You know, that's the things that came to my mind.
Thank you. That's really helpful feedback. I appreciate that, Rehana. Others that studied that area that want to opine, did you agree with that rating? Did you assign a different rating, or what stood out to you? Teresa, I think you may have put something in the chat, but I've got a bunch of different windows.
I did, yes, but I was trying to give some other people an opportunity to speak. So maybe we'll wait another second and so I can talk about every section, but I want to give room for other people, so I'll just wait.
It looks like Manijeh, you also are on that section. If you have any questions, the others, I think it's the 3 of you that are here today who were assigned to that section. So if you have comments, go ahead, and if not, anyone else also, if you have suggestions or comments, that's okay too.
No one?
Teresa, why don't you go?
Okay, so I put developing, and I put that just to kind of briefly go over the sections. So for the communication series, I felt like the city, with the onset of COVID, it was their time to shine, and using a lot of their resources to have the opportunity to communicate with people. Oftentimes, what has been said is that it is difficult to physically be at places, and it would be more convenient to communicate through email. And so this was the time to have the opportunity to use a lot of our media, mailers, and people who are on the email list through the city to have a blast communication. And what we have seen through COVID is a lack of communication on some pretty significant scales. And so looking at the fiscal year of 2019 and 2020, we have to look at that whole time period, but also COVID from March until this point. And so I thought that was definitely developing in PE2, outreach and engagement. I thought engagement through the fiscal year 2019 and 2020 was good, but still a lot of progress to be made. So developing youth engagement, I was impressed with some of the statuses that were mentioned in the brief, but I still, after being in contact with some youth services like Home Plate, have heard that some of our at-risk youth that is houseless, on the verge of being homeless or homeless, that we're still really struggling to reach our youth. So youth engagement, although in some respects with youth that come from a well-rounded home with mom and dad in the household are doing better, but I think there's still more to be done with that. So developing leadership development, good with the points that were mentioned. As Rehana mentioned with reflective government, I think that it's good, but we can do better. The fact that the demographics of the candidates were not given, I think we can do better. I think it's developing. I understand the idea for moderate progress, but I respectfully disagree and would say developing on that overall for this section for those points mentioned. And if anyone disagrees with me, that's fine. I'm more than happy to explain my point in more detail, but I'm trying to synthesize my ranting today. So, yeah.
That was great. Thank you for those notes, Teresa, and for your opinion. Yeah, I see a thumbs up. Are there other comments or questions or suggestions on observations, sorry, on this? Yeah, Oswaldo, you want to add something?
I think I agree with Teresa in everything that she said. This particular area, it is gaining a little bit of more importance as we moved forward towards different Beaverton with the new charter and everything. I have had a chance to talk to some people about this before, but mentoring our youth is the key for our success in the future. And it's very imperative that we don't leave our youth, the BIPOC youth, out of the equation. I think it is those youth, the MYAB. I think it's crucial that board is very diverse, because if not, then we're just going backwards. So I definitely support that rating.
Great, thank you. Other thoughts? Looks like Cynthia put in the chat, MYAB is diverse, but only with AAPI communities. Rachel?
Yeah, thanks. So the way I kind of did this is I went through and assigned a rating to each of the goals within each section and then kind of took an average from that. So I ended up on public engagement getting kind of an average moderate, assigning PE1 communications a moderate rating, as well as PE2 outreach and engagement. PE3 youth engagement I actually thought showed significant progress. PE4 leadership development I said emerging, and then PE5 reflective government I said developing. And something that I had to keep in mind here was reading what the progress ratings mean themselves, particularly when I was looking at the difference between developing and moderate. And in moderate progress, it says progress is beginning to show in several of this area's goals. So it doesn't mean that any of the goals have actually been achieved yet, just that several things are in motion to work toward reaching those different indicators. So that's just kind of how I was interpreting things.
Thank you. That is really a really important point. I neglected to. I meant to pull up on the screen the definitions of the ratings. So maybe I'll just do that so we can all take a look at that, just so we're starting from the same point. I think you all hopefully did in your reviews. But I'll pull that up for just a second. And I saw Monica's hand, so go ahead while I'm doing that.
Thank you. Hi everyone. I was reading briefly everything, and then I dedicate time for my part. But in general, I thought we need to be a little more benevolent about our ratings because what we're going through since March, COVID. So there's some things in some parts of the DI that it was very hard to accomplish due to the changes we have right now. And that's just my opinion. And at the moment that we have to grade, because perhaps we're going to be like a little drastic sometimes, but we need to understand the times that we're going through. And there were some things that couldn't be accomplished or done because of that. That's my only opinion I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, and Rachel. So these are the progress ratings again that we're trying to choose from, that you all are trying to choose from for tonight. So just in case you want to review these again, there are 5 different options. They are subjective for sure, but they do offer a little bit of additional specificity around what does moderate progress mean according to this definition, as opposed to maybe each person's individual interpretation. All right, great. Well, we are approaching, we're definitely, or maybe a little bit past the 10-minute mark. So I'm gonna go ahead and, oh, Teresa, did you have something before we do a poll? Go ahead.
Thank you for putting up the progress ratings. And I just want everyone to keep in mind, as it was stated earlier, well, that I stated it, but just to, that it is, sorry, I have my piece of paper as reference, that it is for the fiscal year, so 2019, 2020, not just this year, but the fiscal year. So of stuff, that is all. I'll lower my hand.
Okay.
I wanted to make one quick point to Oswaldo's point about mentoring. One thing, it's good to see that there's more youth getting involved with our boards and commissions. But what I've seen in the past is if they don't have someone mentoring them, then they come to the meetings and it may not connect with them in any way. So we often would lose some of the teenagers who joined because they'd come for a while and didn't really get into it, and then they'd leave. So that the mentoring part that Oswaldo talked about is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and I hope people are comfortable with this. It's really just to take a temperature check and see if we can get to some consensus. So I'm going to go ahead and put a poll up on the screen and have you put, again, this isn't an official vote, but this is allowing you to say where are you at this moment around which rating you would give. So can you all see that up on the screen? Hopefully you can do that and go ahead and choose yours. And then again, we'll come back at the end to what were all of the different ratings.
I'm having an issue with this.
The host and panelists cannot vote.
What's that?
Host and panelists can't vote.
Oh, panelists can't vote. That doesn't work. Oh, darn. We're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way then.
Also, I think Alex and I said the same thing at the same time.
You're so coordinated. Okay, so old-fashioned way. Can you all please add your, can you all please put your rating in the chat box if you are a board member?
You say the chat box?
Yeah, if you can just put your.
Sure.
I was really proud of myself tech-wise for setting that up, but I guess we missed something. Thank you, that's great. I can count those up as we go.
Okay, how I do it? I just put my name?
You just put the rating that you want to assign to public engagement in the chat, and it will come up as you. I will know who it is.
I hope I'm doing the right thing. Oops. I don't know. Did I get it right?
Monica, say what you vote and I'll type it for you.
I put it there, but I don't know if Alexis got it.
I don't
I think
see
it
it.
got sent to me privately.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
he likes you better.
I said the place developing.
I don't know why it sometimes just declares that you're sending private messages to people. It does that to me all the time.
I'm telling you, I messed up today. So don't count too much on me. No, not really.
Alexis, do you have all the ones that you need right now? Or are we missing some?
I am just making my way through the chat. It looks like I have pretty much everybody. Definitely a critical mass. So that's great. And it looks like it's about evenly split between moderate and developing.
Did you get Monica's or?
No. What was it?
Developing.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, so we have 6 for developing and 5 for moderate. Okay, great. So let's move on to the second section, which is city practices. And my notes say that that was Alex, Dennis, Shara, Brandon, and Monica. So whoever would like to start us off, again, if you could just tell us which rating you would suggest and a little bit of what your observations were.
Can I go?
Yes.
Okay, my grade for this, my suggestion for this, the city practice, it was in general, actually, there's some areas that are not even started yet, such as, let me see, on the marginalized identifies people who, is not participating because they have not been really identified, but they start working, they're laying down a foundation to begin. So that is part of that is not actually in progress it is in progress, but it's not developed yet. So, but in general, my grade was developing because there's a lot of stuff that it cannot be done. It will continue to be creating and working on it and changing and adding. So this is something, this area for me totally is developing.
Okay, great, thank you. Alex, you wanna go next?
Yeah, I was kind of bouncing between, developing and emerging because there seemed like a lot of areas where there was not much, like the flat numbers, like there was like a 1.3% change or something, which is not much. But then I really wish we had the information of how many positions came available within the time period. Like that would mean a lot if it was like 2 or 3 hires versus dozens. I also had some just kind of really specific concerns about some of the very specific points, like trying to funnel people through college internship programs is going to get you more privileged candidates, because if you can afford to take an unpaid internship out of college, you're probably of a certain background or at least financial background. But I don't know if those were unpaid. I kind of assume. Rarely they're called internships when you actually get money for them.
And you know what? I had my notes here. I was at the same place you are about that. Yeah. But the reason I gave developing is because I see a lot of other things are going on. But yeah, you're right. There's some things that are not starting yet.
Yeah. Also, that unconscious bias CIS program that I've taken, and it was like 20 minutes. So the fact that only 85% of the staff has gone through it is bizarre to me. Like, it was a pain to register for, and I think the city should reevaluate using it. And it was also like really heavily UK based and kept talking about the stereotype of people in hoodies. And it's like, what did people in hoodies do to you guys? But so that was concerning. And yeah, like UK unconscious bias versus American like mixture between urban and rural unconscious bias stereotypes and like how to apply them was extremely lacking in that program. This is just kind of very specific just because I took it at like 11 o'clock at night and was cranky the whole time. Yeah, like I felt like to give it a better score, I would have needed more information, or maybe it would have given it a worse score if I had more information. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I did. But looking at the rest of it, I really feel like it is developing. I mean, there's some parts, at least some of them, they are laying a foundation for it. So that means they're working on it, even that it's not totally developed, but it gives me hope. And I think it will come out maybe when we are a little better than where we are now. But that was my, but I do understand what you're saying, because I did have those points here too.
Yeah, like the bilingual pay program seemed like really cool, and I wrote down CP 4.4, and I don't remember what that is. Library stuff. So yeah.
Great, thank you for those comments. I can look up which one that was. Just to, Jena put it in the chat as well, but those internships that we're referring to are paid. Just as that is one thing we can answer right now. Which was the one that you marked, Alex, that you can't remember what it is?
4.4.
4.4, it looks like a bunch of library stuff. Oh. It's a big paragraph.
4.4 is a pretty general one. City support for culturally specific services and resources increases each year through funding, partnerships, and direct offerings. So, yeah. General kind of update about across departments, but yeah, pretty forces us to be a little bit general in a small space. Other feedback about this section. What did people notice?
Sorry, I've got a fussy baby, but this is the city practices, correct? All right. So what stood out to me was, well, this is my first time seeing the plan, so I really like the structure. I mentioned that in the chat. But, the numbers, there's a little bit of growth, so that's cool. I'm about that. I would like to see a section that addresses, it's like the hard numbers. It's not necessarily, like, there was more access to resources for sure, like with regard to like the library and such. But like what's going on with workshops to help some of the highlighted sections get these jobs? Or is there a task force that is addressing where these applicants are falling short, or like common underlying areas that allow for this deficit to continue, whether it be like needing a 100% clean background, or just like they didn't have a cover page. So I would like to see some of that tied in moving forward. So I'm going to be a little tough and say emerging, just because I don't like to get out of the gate leading with best intentions, or taking like circumstances into account, because that will always be the case. So, like action, time is now, time is in the past. Let's use this position and leverage it.
Great, thanks, Brandon. Other thoughts? It looks like so far, somewhere between emerging and developing is what folks have shared. And I appreciate the notes on what would be helpful to see for context or for, you know, to be able to understand the information. So I'm taking notes on those as well.
So I'm reading about the strategies that are in place, like for retention or for when people leave their positions. And I think the next level of understanding, going off of what Brandon was saying, the next level of understanding would be recognizing that people might not feel safe enough to be honest with why they're leaving, or why they're going to say they're happy and they're going to thank them for, because they know they're going to need the reference later on. So next level understanding really would be how do they get the information without asking? And I feel like over the summer, there's been a lot of that theme in the conversation. Like you have the data, stop asking. And let's figure out how, like, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. If you have 41% of applicants, but you have 16% staff, there's a disconnect there. So what's not happening to diversify the workforce within the city?
Yeah, I want to second that. That came up, and I think there's a section there that said something about how they're working on getting like anonymous reporting, and it's like, yeah, but we need it to exist. Like, I don't feel like it should be that hard to have someone scrub email complaints.
All right, great. Well, let's take, I feel like it's winding down, so let's go ahead and take our chat poll. If you can put in the chat which rating you would write at this point, give this section of city practices.
Says I did it the wrong way again, so I'm giving you mine developing. Don't laugh, Cynthia. And you too, BC.
Great. All right, it looks like today, it looks like on the last couple, we've had about 11 people putting in their ratings. So we have 4 for emerging and 7 for developing at this point. So just to give folks a sense, leaning a little bit more towards developing for that one. Okay, great. We're making progress. So let's go ahead and move on to the third section, priority area number 3, which is housing and livability. So that one was assigned to Anusha, Manijeh, Teresa, Cynthia, and Ugonna. Who would like to start us off with some comments about that one?
I would say that there's been some progress here, you know, but my issue is I wonder how much progress we would have recorded if not for COVID, right? I'm just wondering, on a good day, would we see this much progress if we were not going through COVID? I mean, people we have housing issues. That's undeniable. But I was just wondering, would there have been this much assistance if we didn't have COVID? That's just my issue. Other than that, I think that there is some progress in that area, but I can't say how much COVID played a role to that progress.
I know we're supposed to just go off of the document, but I personally know people who got evicted during COVID, even though we have that policy in place. So I can't help but like that knowledge clouds my judgment of the progress that we're making. Like the intention was amazing, but the implementation didn't work exactly as planned. So that.
I have a little question, Alexis. So I'm not going to comment on this section because I didn't read it thoroughly, but some of the action items, some of the circles are solid, some of them have a line, and some are, what does that mean?
Yeah, so one of the things that we asked staff when we asked them to report out in addition to giving their report out, we asked them to rate whether, in their opinion, it was not started, I think, in progress or completed or something like that. So that was just also, from their opinion, another sort of, I thought it might give you all a little bit more of a quantitative, like, okay, 4 of the 10 are completed according to staff or something like that. But I also wanted you to be able to evaluate that yourselves, because there were areas in which I either changed that rating based on what was written in the report, or I felt like had I written this section, I might not have rated it in that way. So it's just an additional thing. There's a key at the bottom, but it's just an additional way for you all to know if staff feels like this is something that's moving and it is in the pipeline, or if it just hasn't even been touched yet.
Okay, got it. I just saw the key as well. Okay, thanks.
I have an additional question on one of the indicators here under HL1 homelessness. For the status of HL 1.2, is there any way that we can actually get numbers on the funding from the social services funding grants that were actually given to mental health and housing?
I mean, like dollar amounts that were given to organizations that fund those things?
Yeah, I mean,
percentages or something?
Yeah, like dollar amounts.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could ask to pull that. That would be.
I think that'd be really helpful, because it'd be good to know if like that type of funding increases next year or decreases or stays the same.
Yeah. Okay. So more the actual dollar amount than like percentage of the amount given to social services or something like that. You'd be most interested in dollar amount.
It would be good to know how much we have, though, so you get an idea. I think that's, yeah, I'd do both since you have them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
I do want to give like massive credit to the safe parking program. I know that was I know for Beaverton city staff that was a very difficult like it was met with a lot of resistance, and still like to have it going I think is pretty awesome. So brownie points just to have that going and having it be successful and safe.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm going to ping pong again really quick. Same comment as my previous one on HL4 home ownership for indicator HL 4.1. Talks about CDBG funding to Proud Ground, but doesn't talk about how much at all. Thank you.
Yeah, good point. We can definitely get those.
And I'm personally really curious to hear actual rating recommendations from the people who were assigned this section. So if anybody could throw that out there to maybe give us a baseline, that'd be great.
And then question about this section, is the qualifier that there's higher home ownership to match the diversity of the city of Beaverton, or is it like what is, like, our indicators don't necessarily say it doesn't necessarily say matching our diverse population or balances out the racial inequity? So like in our next version, is that something that we should be considering?
And you're specifically referring to HL 4.1, right, Cynthia?
Just no, I guess the whole housing and livability in general. But yes, like city provides funding to support home ownership, but
how could it be tied in some way to population or disparity numbers in terms of
4.3 kind of addresses it, but like not all the indicators address that specifically.
Okay. Oh, Teresa, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I gave this overall section the rating of developing, and I will give my explanation just kind of point by point. So as you know, I'm on the Housing Technical Advisory Group for the City of Beaverton, so a lot of good questions raised. So Cynthia, yes to your question of is there any matrix or measure based off of Beaverton population? And if you actually refer to the Housing 5-Year Action Plan, which I happen to have a copy of at home, then you may or may not have a copy in your stuff. And if you actually turn to page 9 and 10, if you just make a note to yourself, page 9 and 10 is something to refer to when this was done. It was for the fiscal year of 2019-2020, which is exactly what we're talking about here. And the population at that time was estimated at 97,000. And so they looked at the percentage of homeowners in the city of Beaverton was 48%, and the percentage of renters is 52%. And so obviously the goal is to get more people to be homeowners in transition. As we know, as more people move into Beaverton, they will need places to stay, and that the people who are here, assuming that they are established, would be able to purchase some of the homes that are being developed. So we have that is, I'll go into that later, but so the HL1 section on homelessness, my personal opinion, I was bouncing back between emerging and developing. Between the fiscal year of 2019-2020, the city of Beaverton has taken some pretty good steps in developing opportunities for people who are houseless or homeless to be able to have a place to clean up and to have a safe place to sleep at night temporarily. The struggle is capacity. That, you know, the Beaverton Community Center, as small as it is, it's difficult to keep a lot of people there every night, and there were some restricted hours. They did extend hours due to COVID, understanding that people needed a place that was clean. The safe parking program has done wonders to the homeless population. Houselessness is a big deal, so I kind of struggled with that. I still don't know what to give it, to be honest, between emerging and developing. If you want to be generous developing, If not, there are definitely arguments for emerging, but looking back to the progress rating definitions that Alexis showed, but just a refresher. So emerging, there's little or no work as far as evidence in the area goals, but it depends on how much you want to argue that point, right? And developing, the definition as it is in the progress ratings is defined as the work is evident on these area goals, but tangible results are still lacking. So there's still a lot of work to be done. COVID really kind of threw a wrench in the plans, so it's hard to say. So moving on to HL2, quality of housing and tenant protections. As you said, Cynthia, you knew someone or know someone that, was evicted in the midst of all this, even though the moratorium is supposed to be in full effect. Then that, without a shadow of a doubt, is affecting people's protections and quality of life in their housing. The city programming for educating people in their rights. With 100,000 people, the community tenants' rights seminar that they had, I think they had 2 this year, pre-COVID, and they had, I attended one of them and there were like 50 people in there, and there was another one at another time, I think they had something like 30, so they were able to educate a lot of people. The problem is they need like 100 of those, and they were free, and they provided a free dinner and childcare. The problem is, because of COVID, once again, there were plans to have more of those meetings, but it's difficult to have those meetings virtually when a lot of the support that people needed in order to attend was no longer available. So childcare, free food, a way to access that information that was printed out in multiple languages. So it's tough. And looking at this through the whole fiscal year, 2019, 2020, I would give this section the rating of developing for reasons mentioned. Affordable housing for all. As I discussed, there are a lot of housing options currently in the works being developed, and those include ADU dwelling units, so accessory dwelling units. If you've ever seen someone who has a house and they have like a converted garage or space that is livable, those spaces, and people want that here in Beaverton that live on larger lots of land, but there's a lot of policy, rules, and regulations that go along with that, and it is still being worked out. There are laws that are fluid still, it's continuing to change, and that is actually a PowerPoint slide in the PowerPoint presentation that I mentioned earlier about the housing options, which I will ensure Alexis gets, so I apologize for not providing that in advance so that you could see that. To the question on social service funding, actually in the Beaverton City Council meeting that occurred earlier this year, the Social Service Funding Committee recommendations were that the Bethel Congressional United Church of Christ Outreach Committee received $15,000, Meals on Wheels Beaverton received $10,000, Murray Hills Christian Church received $10,500, St. Matthew Lutheran Church received $4,000, and the Waste Not Food Taxi to receive $8,000. This was a budget impact of a total of $47,500 given to Beaverton City Council, and that is available on the Beaverton City website if you search social service grants. So don't quote me, look for yourself, people. There you go. So overall, yes, I'm sorry I'm going on a rant, but it's super important and housing is my jam. So almost done. So affordable housing for all, lots of projects going on. South Cooper Mountain, as we know, we had a PowerPoint presentation earlier this year on that. South Cooper Mountain is not technically a part of Beaverton, it's unincorporated Washington County, and we hope to have that area annexed by choice within the next 5 years, in addition to some other areas like Aloha, but once again, annexation cannot be forced. That's City Council debate question, so don't ask me too many questions on that. homeownership, as I stated, 48% here in Beaverton, and continuing to rise as we have more development going on in our urban growth boundary areas, as well as some of the redevelopment happening all over Beaverton. As we know, we had a PowerPoint presentation earlier this year that stated that due to some of the rezoning, that they are going to build more in downtown Beaverton. So we're talking high rises where there are businesses on the bottom and apartments up top. And if you recall, the estimate was that they would have 544 units, dwelling units for people in those spaces. So we're talking apartments, we're talking condos. Whether they are affordable or not is a whole other conversation, but there is opportunity for more people to live there. Anti-displacement, we did have Cadence Petros, who oversees housing, and she actually was a big part of getting the CDBG dollars and Metro dollars here in Beaverton, and she is a part of the anti-displacement for downtown specifically that covers the Cedar Hills area as we know it, and Midtown, all of that good stuff, even touching Allen and having conversations with the person who does the Allen Boulevard project. So very much developing, in my opinion, borderline progress. So I know I'm running off on a tangent. So overall, developing, a lot more to say about this area, and I kind of over-explained why I think what I think in my ratings, but developing overall for this section. And if you have any questions, I can talk with you offline. That is all.
Thanks, Teresa. Yeah, I see Ahmed with his hand up, and then I think we'll probably try to move on to the next section. But go ahead, Ahmed.
I just hi guys. Sorry to be late. But Teresa, till we speak about like the housing, do we like? As I know, there is like now a new project they want to sell around like, I mean, properties belong to the housing authority, to the county, almost like 200 unit. They want to sell it, and they will transfer all the people, all the benefit people who get benefit from this program to different programs. So do you have any update about that project or not?
I'm sorry, I think I want to interject and just ask Teresa, do you think you could answer that offline, just because I'm worried we're not going to get through the progress ratings. I think it's an important question, but I don't know that it affects the progress ratings piece. So Teresa, did you hear his question, and would you mind addressing outside of?
Ahmed, I will email you separately. I'll just email you later.
Okay.
So awesome to have so much knowledge on the board. That's great. All right, so let's go ahead and if you can put your rating in the chat, please, what you would like, or say it out loud if that doesn't work for you. Either way is fine. For housing and livability.
Develop it for me. I think it's totally developing.
Based on further information, I will say developing.
Thanks, Ugonna. All right. Great. That one looks really strongly developing for the board. Feel free to keep putting them in, but I'm seeing strong consensus on that, so that's great. Okay, well, let's move on to public safety. We're on number 4, so we'll just keep cranking, good as far as we can. So Monica, Ugonna, Cynthia, Rachel, and Oswaldo were the ones who were assigned to that piece, so whoever would like to start. And please do, I think that was helpful, Rachel, to remind everybody, if you can say your recommendation of the rating in your comments, that would be helpful.
Oswaldo, I see you. You go first.
Excellent. Thank you. I would recommend rating of moderate progress on the public safety. And the reason why is because you could actually go with developing if you want. But I think that the Beaverton Police Department is really working towards having a more reflective police force of the communities they serve. And the thing with that is, in my opinion, when you put numbers together, then you can interpret those numbers depending on how you would get the information. So I see that there are some increases in the hiring process of diversity, but it's only still, it's not what it needs to be. I think the percentage of people of color is under 10% of the staff. And I don't know what the staff entails. Is it the actual police force, the ones that are going out on the streets and taking care of everybody? Hey, mister.
I'll just jump in and answer
He
that,
supports the
Oswaldo.
police.
It is sworn and non-sworn officers. So everybody who is in
Yeah.
BPD are those numbers.
Exactly. So would you say that they have 10%? So still, we really don't know what those numbers really mean. But again, I think they're doing an effort in trying to be more or better represent the communities. But they have a lot of work to do. They continue to work with the city to come up with new and innovative ways to recruit people. I have provided some insight into this to the last 3 chiefs of police. I don't know, whether or not they have done or are planning on doing some of those things that those recommendations. But I think it is important that if they are working with the human resources from the city of Beaverton, and I believe a newly hired, what is it? Specialist talent. What's the title, Alexis?
Talent acquisition specialist.
Acquisition
essentially
specialist.
A recruiter.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but I'm hoping that person is able to work with the police department and find ways to reach out to people of color. But I don't think that, that's, in my opinion, they're not going to be from having 7% of Hispanic representation in the police force to 17% in 2 years. I think this is a long-term plan. So it continues to evolve and develop as time goes on. I think the other thing, and I mean, I could go also point by point, but I think I like to just try to summarize as best as I can. I think the police departments, not only here in Beaverton, but everywhere, they have a really difficult issue right now with perception, because the perception of from us, the public, the communities that they serve, is really bad, and they have to do a better job at presenting a different type of workforce of police. Unless they go out there and say, look, this is our department. If you live in Beaverton, this is what you will get. I think, again, talking about mentorship, if a police officer goes to an elementary school and they just work with kids from minorities, with people of color, and then they tell them what it is to be a police officer, don't just take him out to buy groceries at a Fred Meyer. That just happens. I mean, it's good, and anybody can do that. Soccer players do that. NBA players do that. It doesn't mean that the kid is going to want to be an NBA player or soccer. Well, we all want to be soccer players. So that's a bad example, but the point is that they need to do a better or work in a different way right now, strategize, trying to change the perception of the police with the public. I think our Beaverton Police Department, they're great, they do a good job, and they are working towards being more engaged with the community, being more transparent, culturally responsive. All of these things, I think they're very engaged. The fact that we have not only one now, but 2 representatives from the police department, it's a wonderful step towards advancing what we had been asking for. 3-4 years ago, we actually had to send a letter so that they could actually attend our meetings. This is progress. It takes time. Going from 1 to 2 in 3 years, imagine what it is to hire somebody. It's not gonna take 2 years. It's gonna take 5, 10, 15 years. But unless they put the tools and the programs in place right now, today, the money, I see marketing in all of these topics, in all of these public engagement, city practice. There's marketing everywhere. The truth is, I don't see anything. And that's my industry. That's how I make a living. And I don't see those messages anywhere. I mean, I get that they put, you know, nice art and things on Instagram, but then when you go and see that you only got 5 likes, and it's probably the marketing manager, the person who do the graphics, and then the relatives, and me, because I support you guys. That's not, I think to me, that's not a marketing strategy that is working effectively. And since this is gonna be my last year, I'm going to encourage everybody to not be afraid to call the city out when they're lacking on the things that they're doing, because that's our job. That's what we do. If we feel that they're doing something wrong, we need to tell them. I don't think we need to be their cheerleaders. I don't think that that's the point. I don't think that's why we're here for. We love them, yes, and we can love them just as much as, you know, if you guys have children, you love them. But if you need to reprimand them, you have to do that too. And when the city councils and the mayor and the city manager next year, when they come here, they need to be reprimanded, well, then we need to do that. That's our responsibility. And that's all I have to say. And I need to attend a family thing that I have right now, so I'm just gonna leave you all. But thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Oswaldo. Who else would like to share about public safety?
I'll go. The BIPOC representation of the police force did go up from 9.6% to 10.9%. So still you have 89% of the current police force that is white, and 75% male. In addition, 43% of the total applications received were from non-white folks. And I feel like if we are talking about, if we're gonna rate the city practices, where the city staff is 16% of color, but we're going to rate the public safety piece higher, I feel like we're not being fair to city practices. So the highest I could recommend is a developing, leaning towards emerging, because the efforts, while there's more efforts happening now, it is not at the level that we need it to be for the community to feel safe. I respectfully disagree with Oswaldo. I think PR is not the way to go. Like changing public perception is not going to come in the form of a commercial. It's going to come in the form of engaging in communities in an authentic way. So my recommendation is a low developing, and I know we can't do that. So I'll say developing.
Thank you. Go ahead, Monica.
I think I totally agree with Cynthia. I mean, it is not like it's doing a big things right now, but it has not stopped either. They're doing. My recommended grade will be developing too. It's not a high developing, but I don't think it's below that. But we need to give time, and I really feel that safety and the police is working and doing the best. And again, for them right now, it's not an easy task. You know, they have to work more. And I really think and feel that I will vote for developing. I do vote, I do, for developing.
Great, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Rachel. Oh, I'm sorry. Rachel and then Ugonna.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna third that developing vote. I just want to highlight a couple of things that stood out to me. One is that police management positions remain fully staffed by white employees. The second one is PS 1.4 about retention efforts. And I feel that the status reported next to it really doesn't say anything about that indicator. I would hope that the Beaverton Police Department has policies prohibiting discriminatory practices. And I would also hope it's baseline that BPD leadership supports any members who want to be a part of the city staff internal equity team. So I really didn't think that that said anything significant at all. And I would like to know if any Beaverton Police Department staff actually serve on the internal equity team. That would say something more to me for that indicator, if that's possible to get that information.
Sure, I can answer that question. Okay. We had a representative earlier this year. We do not currently have representation.
Okay. I think that'd still be good to include. That's okay. Community engagement, PS3 overall, I feel like most of those indicators were very much emerging. I will say that I do appreciate the police department's efforts to be really involved in the diversity advisory board and in HTAG. Something that I would like to see more for the rest of this year, or maybe just more so getting ready for next year, is finding a better way to utilize the BPD liaisons that we do have during our time with us, so that we are getting the information that we really want to know, or being able to have the conversations that we should be having in that short period of time that we have them during the liaison reports, instead of, I don't know, just hearing about the coffee with a cop thing, or, you know, I want to create I want to create more of a structured dialogue with them, I think, if possible, to have, I guess, more critical conversations. Transparency, PS4, indicator 4.1, says the BPD identifies opportunities to improve the accuracy of demographic data collected during stops. The status for that indicator talks about the type of data that they collect, and that it's reported to the CJC, but it doesn't actually say anything about the accuracy of collecting the demographic data during the stops. So I would appreciate if it's possible to get more information there, or just know that they're not really doing anything right now to try to improve the accuracy of that data that they're collecting. Because from what I remember from Chief Groshong's presentation to us last year, it was all perceived race, ethnicity, and gender. And so that's just based on the police officers' best guess. I think that's all I would like to say about that.
Rachel, if I remember correctly, there was some bits of the data that we didn't get a chance to pursue further. I believe it was something like 25% of the stops were perceived Black drivers. and we didn't really get into, well, 2% of Washington County is Black, but 25% of the stops were perceived Black. We didn't get a chance to dive into that discussion, and I think that is one of the things that we would have, that's one of the topics of conversation we would have liked to have had together with Police Chief Groshong. Also, I wanted to add, like on PS 5.2, we wrote ourselves into the progress report because there is a mention of resolution to support Asian Pacific Islander communities. And I like congratulating ourselves for making the DEI report at the end of the year, so.
Great. Thank you all. Great notes. Ahmed, did you have something before we? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, like I already have conversation with many officers about diversity in police department in Beaverton City, and many of them, when I ask them, like, I don't see like dark-skinned policemen in the department, why we don't have, they told me like sometimes they have executed, they said like nobody showing interest to involve with police department. So we need to know why and how we will encourage people like community of colors to involve, to be like a policeman in our city, because we cannot like bring some people from the moon and make them policemen. We need to encourage people to be a policeman, like Army when they do recruitment, or like Navy, or any of those departments. So we need to focus on those, because if nobody will show up and being like policemen from community colors, how the policemen will bring people to the department? Because if nobody will show up, of course, majority will stay same. So I think we need to focus on this issue too, like how we will encourage people, young people, to be like from community of colors, how they will try the system and to be apart from the system too.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm so sorry. I see a couple of other hands, but Manijeh is helping me, reminding me that we skipped over Ugonna. I'm so sorry. So Ugonna, do you have anything to say still? And then I saw Brandon and Monica. Apologies.
So I'm good.
Lost my stack.
Everything has already been said. I just wanted to echo that. I was going to ask that question that Ahmed raised. I wasn't sure why the numbers were so low. I was going to ask, is it that people of color are not applying for these positions? Why is it this low? Because I know that Beaverton is uniquely diverse, and I'm not sure why the police force is not reflecting and representing that diversity. I mean, if you want to gain the trust of the people that you serve, the force has to be reflective of the people that they serve. So I was actually going to ask, is it that people of color are not applying for these positions, or is it that they're being passed over for these jobs? And I'm also going to ask if there's a way we can gauge that, maybe see what the application process looks like, and see how many people are applying for these jobs and how many of them are getting the jobs. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brandon.
All right, thank you. I'll be quick as possible. I've got a couple talking points, and then I also think it's important for the police representatives to have a chance to, give a little rebuttal if time allows. But outside, easy. All right, so my talking points are the SROs as a recruitment tool. The demographics just aren't there. If you're really going to use that as a recruitment tool to talk about any kind of diversity, it's got to reflect the population, at least in the smidgen. It can't be cis white 100% and then sell it. That's not going to work. The cadet program, I'm curious what that looks like in terms of recruitment, because that is an area that I think there's a lot of potential for increased growth. And we could talk about minorities having crime rates or incarcerations, which we could talk about that, but then we've got to talk about other things that come along with that. But in high school, for the most part, everybody's got a clean slate. So I would like to see that area highlighted in future talks. Lateral transfers, that's a big part of PD. BSD, white flight, it happens. My dad was a retired Portland police officer, full disclosure. I applied to be on Beaverton's police department before I got hired on with Beaverton School District. It's a long process. It really is. It really is. I made it to the hiring list. It's not for everybody. Ended up not going that route. Actually, not getting a call back, but not following up. So it's a bit of a deal. It's not like you need a job and then you take a job. It's almost like as long as it would take you to get through community college, is about how long is it going to take you to get hired on with the Beaverton Police Department or any police department for that matter. But I do think that lateral transfers is a way that we could increase those numbers. And then last diversity board meeting, sorry, I'm talking fast because I'm trying to get all this information out. 16 years, 18 years, Beaverton Police Department has been working to diversify its force. Hasn't happened. At some point, you've just got to admit that you need an outside consulting agency or the city to come in and help with that process. I'm not saying tie funding to that sort of thing or mandating an internal audit, but something's not working if what's in place isn't increasing the results that you wish to see. And then Allen Boulevard, everybody wants safety, but nobody wants to be over-policed. Let's acknowledge that. I think it's important for community centers or public parks or positive things along those lines as well to be incorporated in any kind of DEI planning. And I'm gonna go ahead and mute it, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Brandon. Monica was next, and then Manijeh.
I just want to make a comment. There's something that I know and I heard related to what Ahmed said, why the colored people does not apply or is not in the police force. I had a conversation with students from college, and they were Latinos, and I was volunteering, and there was Latinos and African American. Both of them, when I talked to them about it and suggest them to be part of it or start applying for, I was very shocked when they said, if we go and apply and get into the police department, it's kind of like going to the enemy, to work for the enemy. So my reaction was, that's kind of mentality of people and some groups have, that they cannot work at the police because they become part of, they go to the other side. And I was very surprised when I heard that. What are they thinking? And they're very young. They were in 19s and 20s. So I just want to make a comment about that because he was asking why. And I talked to them and I was like, it was very shocking for me to see and think about how they thinking about, I would like to be there, but I will be part of the enemy. And I think that's the part that we need to work on as a community, to start taking away that negativity. And it will be hard though. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Go ahead, Manijeh.
I wanted to say also about the people and the recruiting and announcing that recruiting is good. However, when we invite guests to our place, we make our place ready to welcome as well. So like so many people of color go to places to work and all that, they feel that they're not welcome, and they are not welcomed. They are not being welcomed. That's why there are white spaces, missing faces, this book that I just read. Like when they come, they are not really welcome. That's why they kind of feel they're not wanted. I mean, on the surface, they say, yeah, come on, we want to have the diversity and all that. But when they go, they don't see the same. They don't see that they are being treated the same way as people of, white people are being treated. And I have seen it with my own eyes in places that I have worked, that there is discrimination there. And that's why they don't show that much interest sometimes to get involved and to apply or something like that.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of hop on that and off of Monica's comment where the idea that you're joining the enemy and stuff kind of isn't unfounded, because I know a lot of criminal defense people, but my experience is a lot more with, the lawyers. So people who went to law school wanting to become prosecutors, who are very in tune with all of the diversity problems. They go, they graduate, they do it because they always do prosecutors. And then they quit because there's no upward mobility. Their attitude is not appreciated within their workforce, just constant grading on everyone all the time. And I've spoken with fewer former police officers about this, but gotten the vibe that it's kind of the same thing of if you want to make it better and you do get hired, the entire structure is keeping you from making it better, and then you have no upward mobility, so you can't do anything about it. So,
yeah,
a little bit beyond this, but
yeah, but it was my surprise of why they don't want to be there. They want to be there, but they can't, in other words. So it was just, I don't agree or disagree, but it was just a comment they got.
Well, thank you all for a lot of really important observations and comments. I want to see if we can go ahead and take our little poll. Have you go ahead and put in your rating into the chat so we can close, or mostly close for this time, the public safety section. So go ahead and put it in there or speak it out if that's easier.
Developing, please.
Developing for me too.
Thanks. Okay. Great. Well, we got through a lot. We didn't get through all 6 sections, but we got through a lot. And I took some really great notes, and I'm really glad this is recorded so that other folks, I can point them back as well to listen to some of the commentary. Really appreciate the preparation that people did and the engagement tonight. Just to go over where we're at so far for the public engagement section. We have almost an even split, but one more vote for developing. So it's been split between moderate and developing, but one more for developing, so slightly on the developing side. City practices, 7 developing, 4 emerging, so strong developing vote there. Housing and livability, I think everybody voted for developing. And then the last section that we just did, public safety, also almost everyone said developing. We had 1 vote for emerging. So it looks like across the board so far for the first 4 sections, if we were to vote right now, they would all be rated developing. So I think that's an excellent place to stop for now. And we will need to pick up next time on the last 2. So thanks very much.
Alexis, do you want to just roll into your staff liaison announcements?
Oh yeah, sure. So I sent those this afternoon. If you all want to pull those out really quick. We were able to reschedule our welcoming week events, the 2 in-person events that we were not able to do during the week because of smoke on top of everything else. So excited to announce that this weekend on Saturday, from 2 to 5 p.m. in City Park. We're going to have the Travel to Peru event, so please come out and join us if you can. And then the Kurdish community gathering that Shara is organizing is going to be postponed to Kurdish New Year in March. So we'll look forward to that as well. We have, we received 17 applications to the DAB this year. And so I'm gonna be doing interviews in the last couple weeks of October. And I would love to have a person at least accompany me during those. So can you please, great, yeah, either raise your hand or perfect, if you're interested. So Manijeh, Ahmed, Monica are the hands I'm seeing of folks that are willing to maybe participate in that. I will send out some time so we can coordinate. That'd be great. Love to have your perspective in there. So we will do those. Wanted to just let you know that the shelter, the Beaverton shelter this year is going to be in an expanded format. So it's actually going to be open for 120 days, about 24/7. So it's different than what we generally do due to COVID. That's what the county is coordinating. And so we're working with Just Compassion, our partner, to do that. And we're also going to be Just Compassion is going to be hiring paid staff, not using volunteers this year for same reasons. So they're hiring right now for shelter staff. If you or somebody you know is interested in a part-time job, I put the links in there for that. And one last late addition that I didn't get into the report, but I just wanted to give you briefly was that I got a brief update finally around the Public Safety Center Plaza naming. So as you all remember, in March, Cadence Petros came from Community Development to outline a process for naming the plaza of the Public Safety Center. So the building is open now. The plaza is still under construction, but it's time to finally crank through that process. And so, and kind of hoping to use that as a pilot in some ways for doing some other place naming in other areas of the city. So the plan currently is that the Public Engagement Division, which is the one that I work in and that CC manages, is going to assemble a community committee in late fall, early winter. And we don't have the complete plan yet, but that committee is going to be made up of some board and commission members and some other people that participated in that focus group for the grand opening, et cetera, that we weren't able to do. And the committee is going to help probably with a community survey to gather some potential names, and we'll also look at some historical information that we're gathering as part of a separate project, and put forward some recommendations to mayor and city council for approval. So more to come on that. We will keep you updated, but just wanted to finally loop back around and say that is coming, and there will be a separate committee that will be formed late fall, early winter. And then, as you can see, two big pieces of news from our public information folks. One is that the interim city manager recruitment is happening right now. So if you know anyone, if you yourself or you know somebody who might want to apply for that, now is the time. So you have some information there about that position and the external partners that we're using to help recruit for that position. Is first review of applications happening on October 15th. So it's coming up very soon. And then there's going to be the Fall Voters Forum that the DAB is a co-sponsor for this Wednesday at 7 p.m. So please tune into that if you can. I will also be recorded and available online shortly after that to watch as well. So those are my updates.
Yes, and tell all your friends about it. I have one more piece of information. The Beaverton Celebration Parade virtual videos were posted today. We made it. We have 2 entries in it. We are in video 4, and I'm gonna paste the link in the chat in case you're interested in watching it. Any last announcements or information that anybody wants to share before we say goodbye? Brandon?
Shout out to the Beaverton School District Board and Equity Team. Columbus Day is no longer celebrated in Beaverton School District. Indigenous Peoples Day is, as well as the Native American Heritage Month during the month of November.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Okay. Thanks so much, everyone, for a very productive meeting. I just want to echo Alexis's earlier comment. It was really awesome to have so many people engaged in our discussion today, and looking forward to our next conversation next month on the last 2 sections. Until then, take care And meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Okay.